Okay, so I'm here with Irish MMA legend Paddy Holohan, the first fighter to win on Irish soil in the UFC, the first coach to have fought in the UFC and then have coach a fighter in the UFC. So he's a man of the people. I've really looking forward to this interview for a long time. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure. How are you? But to be the person you are now, you had to start somewhere. What led you down the path of MMA?
I think I've told the story about 10 million times. So at the time, my girlfriend was pregnant and I wanted to do something. And I went to a martial arts club and I really liked it. First day coming home, I said to my friend Dean, who's a black belt here and one of the kids coordinators now. It's probably about 18 years ago now. I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. I just really took to jiu-jitsu straight away. And life was a bit mad at that time, you know what I mean? And I just wanted some kind of like structure and an idea. And then like anything, I just got obsessed with it, you know, and I just got delved in it. Anything I get really interested in, I get a little bit obsessed with it and I try to figure out as much as I can of it. And then, and the road just took its course.
Yeah, and then obviously we know your career that has gone through, but people talk, what was it like walking into the gym the first day? Because a lot of people talk to me and they're like, they'd be very hesitant. But in clubs, I find, especially here, I've been here today and me and Ron were saying that it's such a family-oriented club and it's so nice to be around. What advice would you give to someone if they wanted to go to an MMA gym, but they do have the hesitancy? Because I find it is a lot more accommodating and welcoming than people realise.
Well, I think you find that when you're creating basically situations of like, say, adversity, that people grow and they get a little bit easier to being able to deal with them adverse situations. So that's what it is in a martial arts club. You are putting yourselves, but then positions and then situations have to be controlled, coordinated, looked after, and then you realise that everyone is actually sound. Yeah. Now, every now and again, you get a tiny percentage of people, obviously, that in any group of people that might not go the way, but then you get people who come and maybe they don't figure out who they are in real life, and then martial arts humbles them a little tiny bit and then they're allowed to be themselves, you know. So that's one of my favourite things in it, is seeing people come in, the expectations, and then realising that, oh my God, it's not actually what I thought at all. We have a camera out there and like it's on the screen basically, but I see people coming into the corridor and they call it the nervous first day moment. They come in and they do a little circle in the corridor and then they're like, and then sometimes they run down and be like, yeah, all right. And they'll be like, yeah, it's my first day. And I'll just go on in and show them around a little bit and they realise, oh, this is actually okay. And I think, like anything, we are like radiant. If you feel the energy of a place, when you go in, when you feel the energy, and I love that about here, because even this morning I came in there and I'm like, oh, the energy feels great today in here, you know, the teens are training, people are upstairs, there's kids, single sessions going on, there's people hitting pads, there's someone making a cup of tea, a few kids training with one of the strength and conditioning coaches, and the yoga's going on upstairs, and with two little girls with me. It's a dream really is, but to create that community within our community is what I always call it.
Yeah, and you've done a fantastic job here. Like I said, we were only here for a few minutes and we could just feel the feel about it. So congratulations to you and what you've created. But talk to us about the amateur scene years ago compared to now. What was it like then? Because I spoke to the likes of Reese McKee, Will Fleury, Brian Moore, who would have been around then. They said it was the Wild West compared to now. Talk to us about the biggest kind of evolutions, like technique-wise, safety. What was it like back then compared to now? What would your biggest takeaways be?
I think it was, Wild West is a great way of saying it, you know, but I feel everybody fought everybody, so you just fought who was next, basically. I didn't know you could really like say no to a fight, like obviously no to, like I don't want to fight now because maybe I'm going on holidays or something like that. I didn't know, it was like, no, I don't want to fight that guy, can you get me someone else? I didn't know that was a thing for like many fights in, you know, so it was like, who's next? Fight him. Oh shit. And then we move forward, you know, in a way, and then that feeling in your belly of like that nerves, that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. I love that. I love the idea of like when you wake up, the rest of the world is doing its thing, and you have this mission, you have this idea of what it's doing. And there's not a lot of financial gain, obviously. There was zero financial gain in at that time, but it was pride, it was moving forward, it was that feeling that something was happening. And I always had that feeling, and the team that I was involved in, obviously, it was an incredible energy between all of us, where all of that had that feeling. And I really do believe that there was something bigger at work there, you know. Now that I'm older, I'm not like superstitious, you know what I mean? But if you told me at that time there's something bigger at work here, I would think like, you're crazy. But now, I do believe maybe it was, you know what I mean? Because a lot of different people went all different ways and are playing different roles in their lives and their communities and in the sport and stuff like that. And it's mad to sit back and watch, you know, and just, I'm happy I got what I wanted from the sport, and I'm still able to keep growing and like, what's next?
Yeah, no, yes, you don't see the bigger picture when you go in at first, and then, like I said, as you get older, you see, oh, this is what was happening all the time. But it's good to enjoy the journey, because a lot of fighters I find kind of want to get to the end goal and don't relish the journey. So I think people should relish it as it goes through. But talk to us about your first pro fight. Like, what was the emotions like going in? How were you feeling? What was kind of going on in your mind leading up to it?
Just like anything, I think, you know, you're going in, you're fighting the next guys who's in front of you. There was a lot of kind of like MMA league and jiu-jitsu and stuff like that before. The MMA league was, you get a good few fights a day. It was kind of like the version of like amateur at that time, you know what I mean? Which was great, because you got people from all different people coming from kickboxing gyms, and also you'd be looking at like their shorts to see what maybe they're into. And then obviously you had the jiu-jitsu scene where it would be a little bit smaller, but basically you would be going in and just grappling as much as you can. There's a clip on it on my phone, and I'd gone across it the last few days. I'd seen it, and I'm like shoulder choking somebody from guard. It's cringy for me to watch now as a coach, because I'm like, posture, you know what I mean? We're like, I'm just that want to win. You know what I mean? That rawness, you know? So I think when you do walk out that first time and you feel like, right, I think it might have been Shore Road, Conor fought the main event on that time. I think Ring of Truth or Cage of Truth or something. It went from Cage of Truth because they actually got a cage.
Yeah.
So it used to be Ring of Truth before, but yeah, it was a crazy time, you know, and then just all that, like that will to win. I always wanted, I just had that fire in me, that hooligan. It must, you know, that's where it came from. So on that day, waking up in that mood, I loved it, you know, I loved the energy, I loved, maybe I didn't do as well in the gym as I probably did in fights, you know, but I just went for it. Yeah, I just went for it all the time. I'm just trying to separate you from your consciousness or whatever which way I can, in a way, in a least violent way that you will ever think. I wouldn't say myself as a violent person, but I'm determined. I'm very determined redhead, as my mother would say. So I think determined and training and getting after it and being around a good team of people.
Yeah, because I seen we talked to Kieran Davern, and he told us a story. I can't recall it, but he said the energy between the likes of you, Conor, Brian, and it was just a core group of people. And like I said, look at what everyone's gone on to do with Davern, yourself, Conor, Brian Moore, what you did separately. But there was a documentary I watched on you, and I found it really, really interesting with Severe. How did that come about, and how did that make you feel? Because I do what I do because I want to show the people behind the fighter, because people, MMA sometimes doesn't have the best name in some aspects, so to certain people, and I want to show what these guys do, what you do on a daily basis. How did it come about, and how did you feel doing it? Did you want to show people the side of you outside the cage?
I think like the opportunity just came to do it, and a lot of it is about kind of like documenting now what is going to happen. You know what I mean? Even now, say in the role that I play now, it's like I want my kids to be able to look back and see like my dad had it together. You know, my dad was like even crazy sometimes. You know what I mean? He had little periods of that, but these little snippets are not our lives. It's the projection of all of them snippets together. You know, so when I was doing that, I knew that we were doing something special as well. I remember standing on the road and saying to Graham and all the guys like in years to come, he's going to be watching this and stuff like that and all. I remember saying this at that time, and then it's just allowing people into your life as well. I was always kind of like fairly open, fairly honest, maybe too honest sometimes and too open, maybe a little bit naive. I'm a little bit more understanding of how people can weaponize your words or weaponize who you are, but at the end of the day, that's who I am, and as a person, it's very important to stand in your own skin, in your own shoes, you know what I mean? And I think I do that really, really well, and I think it would be like hell on earth to have to live up to a certain persona or a certain person. So when I did, like, say, come out and it kind of blew up, it was a real relief that the people like accepted me for who I was, you know, like I'd say it would be horrible to have to put on a character and then go back to being yourself, you know what I'm saying, in a way, like say wrestling or something like this. Yeah. That'd break my heart, that would, you know, but to go out and be yourself and be accepted, that was an incredible kind of feeling of like I'm here, this is me, you know. So the 10,000 Hours documentary, as you're talking about, it's me and all Roddy, and it's a lot of, you'll see old sparring footage and stuff like that. It's probably one of its first of its kind, so if you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's pretty cool. It's about 20-30 minutes long. But yeah, at that time something special was happening. Yeah, you'll see the big Dublin house and all, and then brought you around the housing estates and the background of what it all was, you know, laying that foundation for like maybe the embedded, all this kind of stuff that comes out. And let's be straight, people are fans, you know, and it's entertainment when it gets to that stage, so it has to be entertained. People do.
I think Hell on Earth was one of the quotes you described as a normal job. That's why you wanted to do MMA. You said doing a 9 to 5 in an office would be Hell on Earth. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I took from it, that this is your life, this is who you are. And you just said there about being yourself, and I say that to fighters now, don't try and be someone else, because people will gravitate to you naturally. And like you said, how exhausting would it be to try and be, it's hard enough to be one person in today's day and age, never mind two people. But one of the biggest career highlights, obviously the first person to win on Irish Style UFC. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about just walking out to the Irish crowd, what that meant to you, and the reception, because I just watched a couple of clips from the fans there over the past couple of days just to see, and it looked incredible. Just from your perspective, tell me how that felt. It
was madness, yeah. It's a bit of weight on your shoulders, because you knew exactly what was happening, and that the same again. It's like something bigger was at work. Like when you look at what happened on that day and stuff like that, it was like something was bigger at work, you know. And in that moment is like history has its eyes on you now, you know what I mean, in a way. And like you're gonna jump, and then the next person's gonna jump, and is everyone gonna make it? You know what I mean, onto that next little level. And that was a big kind of like moment. I remember going into the Tree Arena at the time, and it was time to walk and stuff like that, and just feeling the energy on the walls. It was like that, felt like you were attached to the room, and then nearly, like I've spoken about this before, like I've nearly out of body experience, you know. And then that day, I can imagine that was an awful lot for Josh Sampo to deal with at that time, you know, because you go and watch a first fight in the Apex or even in an arena in America, and it's like, nobody there. He walked into it, which could have been a main event, you know what I mean? And I remember when I got to finish the fight, feeling that just relief fall out my body, and I did the Robbie Keane cartwheel, because Robbie Keane comes from my area, and at that time I just wanted to be able to represent talent, and I knew that people would realise that. And yeah, a few crazy things happened after that. So even Robbie Keane had messaged me and said, I seen you at the end of the, I was like, that's mental, you know. Like as a kid growing up, he was one of the footballers in the housing estate, and then it was just strange what he was to sit back and watch it all avail him from the crowd then, you know. So and then just to walk off into the night, you know, and just realise like that, wow, I'll definitely be thinking about that on my deathbed, you know. That'll be a time that comes past, and even my own kids, like, they don't really realise, but I think they've seen a few things now, fights, and they'll be like, is that you? You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, like, where's your beard? You know what I mean? It's not as big and stuff like that. So it's a beautiful thing to see, because it's just, but if you don't jump in them moments, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, but what if? Yeah. What if? That's the main thing. Go for it, is what I say to people. But what if we fail? What if we look stupid? Whatever. What if you sit with this thought for the rest of your life, thinking that you never did it? And then no one will know how afraid you were, or how secure you were, or how intact you were because you didn't fail. You know what I mean? Excuse my language, but fuck it. You're all
right. This is PG. So, go for it. But no, I like that as well, because like I said, you don't want to be sitting on your deathbed going, what if like, there's so many things I've done in life, you fail, probably the same as you said. If failure is a lesson to improve, or maybe that wasn't for you, and especially if you're a fighter, those moments, like that moment when I watched that clip the other day, I could even feel it watching it on a little phone, and I could just feel, because you could hear the people around shouting, and I was like, oh, I can only imagine what that felt like. But obviously your career came to an end in a way that was quite sad. How did that feel as a fighter? Because you really could, like you could have kept going on and on and on. How did that feel for that to come up in the manner that it did?
It's just, God has a plan, and this is how it goes, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, something in the back of my mind that I was worried about, and fighting as well at times, people used to be like, well, you're not worried, and I'm like, yeah, but like at that stage it was like, burn the boats, you know what I mean? The boats are gone, and people think about death and stuff like that. Death is coming for everybody. One day death will come for everybody. There's a few things that people don't think about in these times as well. They don't think about, like, so people say, like, where do you go after you die? What about the question of where were you before you were born? You know, and maybe that would help you get back to that. Or is there life after death? Is there existence after death? you know. So maybe not life, because life is what we think of and what we understand it to be. But like, does it still exist? The energy, the personality, the spirit, the soul that I am, does that still exist after death, you know? So I've got to be able to look into a lot of this stuff because I've been able to push it forward where like you're fighting, you know, anything can happen, and especially in my situation, it was maybe a little bit more edgy, you know, but like, listen, it was my body, it's my soul, it's my life, and I feel like I should have been able to move forward with it, you know, because as I said, death comes for everybody, and people die every day, unfortunately, and sometimes fortunately as well, because we know people who have suffered over time and stuff like that, and people be like, listen, they're out of their peace now, you know, and that kind of stuff. So I just hope that all the decisions I made in my life, that God was somewhere in there, somewhere guiding me along, and maybe that was his time to be like, right, like, you've learned the lessons that you need from this road, or this thing, the courage, the humility, all of this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And now I have a new plan for you, and I need you to move on now. And at the time, it's not easy to accept that stuff, but when you look back, you realise, you know what I mean? But I could have went anywhere with that, but I got this big surge of energy after that happened as well, like where, like, right, what do I do now? You know, rather than like that dip, that like sitting on a bar still, like, moping and feeling sorry for myself, you know, like that's just not in me.
Yeah, no, and you're right too, because I always say to fighters after losses, like, it's how you come back. Like, so it's your resilience, and that's what you're talking about, right? So that happens to you, your resilience. So, and like I said, energy, and I'm going to go do this, and we'll get onto obviously the gym and the book, because I seen you put up about your book, it's about a year, 2 years ago, that someone from Mexico wrote to you and was like, I read your book. Yeah. How did the book come about, writing it, and how does it feel that you're not just renowned in Ireland, because like that, you're probably one of the most loved, renowned coaches and personalities in Ireland, in my opinion. Well, to me, you are anyways. But for these people worldwide to write, because I remember you saying, this is mental. Some lad in Mexico, or maybe Brazil it was, you were like, is reading my book. How did the book come about, and how does it feel for people to reach out to you and tell you that your story has meant something to them?
That's a big thing of the book. It was actually Paul Fogarty set me down with Richie Barrett, and the idea was like, you should do a book. Basically, Richie Barrett wanted to write an autobiography, and we sat down, and we just started, and we kicked off straight away. Basically, the idea was a few of the stories that I've been telling, kind of like the political role was opening up at that same time, and writing a book is tough. It's not easy. But my main reason was for people who are going to write autobiographies and all that, don't do it for money. It's no money. It's no money. Lots of hours, lots of reading, lots of going over it, correcting, changing, and then trying to make sure that everything's right, because it's other people in there as well, you know what I mean? And you want to make sure that the story is told right, and as correct as you can. And I think you can get it pretty close, but it's very hard to get it. You need to make it needs to be a book too, you know what I mean, in a way? So, I wanted people to be able to say, maybe in places like young men in and women in my own area, and maybe social settings like myself, I grew up very working class, and maybe, I don't know, people who had, if someone was in prison or somebody was suffering in their life at that time, and that would find a way that they would read that book. And that, I got my wish with that, because I've had people all over this planet send me, hey, I read your book, I just found it by chance, I found it by this, and my brother gave me this, or I was on holidays and my dad had the book, you know, and just different ways of how people have read it, and they've seen the story, you know what I mean? They're thinking like, and I could write another book, I'm pretty sure, you know, like I could write another book, I'm pretty sure. One of my good friends, Father Martin, basically, he's been the priest in my school, but he's one of my friends. I'm not going to go to church, kind of spiritual stuff like that. I really have my own relationship with God, and I found a lot more in the last little years of it. But even him, some of the stuff I say to him, basically, he's like that's very interesting, you know what I mean? But with the book, when I wrote it, he was like, oh, I don't know about this, you know what I mean? But then even after I had released the book and it had happened, and he was like, yes, like, you're coming into your creative part of your life now, you know, in these years now, he thinks, because I'm speaking to him about other stuff, and like, would this be a cool screenplay? Would this, you know, I'm still 37, I'm sport old, but I'm life young.
Yeah, no, exactly, and I find I'm a little bit older, and I find now my creativity has come with doing stuff like this, and to be able to articulate and write down things that I think and stuff like that is very good. But when you get a message from someone from another country, does that just like hit you and go, like, that's a good feeling when you get a message like that you've potentially changed someone's life or made them feel something? How does that make you feel as a human being? Because you are a man of the people.
I like helping people, so I would say I'm like a helper soul, if you must, you know what I mean? So in in this realm of like helping people. I feel really good with energy. You can feel somebody be like, "Are you okay?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, yeah." And I'm like, "No, actually, I'm not." And I get that, you know what I mean? And then I try to help people where they are. Sometimes helping people is showing them how to help themselves. You know, you can't force somebody into being happy. You can't. If somebody goes around talking about how bad their life was, how bad their relationship was, how bad it's very hard to say, like, well, you need to leave that in the past, you know what I mean? There's a great saying, there's no future in the past. And you need to find that. No matter what you've came through, it's probably being sent to get you strong for where you're heading or where you're going. You know, if you want flowers, pray for rain. If you want strength, pray for hard times. And that's the kind of thing you're getting. And when you get it, if you can't see that, you need to try find that. You know, you need to try find, like, well, what was that lesson? What was this? And people get the lessons, but they keep going around, oh, it's just a lesson, and they move on, but they don't take the lesson out of it. People win, say in sport, and they just move on. People lose, and they probably get the biggest growth in them lost moments that they did, because they realise that, like, right, I just got checked, and I need to move. I need to figure this in analysis and move on. Yeah. If you win, you could be standing there in the middle of the cage, and he puts up your hand rather than the other hands. That little moment can change everything. Whether you're going to go on this like spiral, probably downhill into the darkness, or you just go up and you just move on to the next one, but you don't elaborate what the whole kind of situation was, you know. So it's very important to understand that, I think, within yourself.
Yeah, and I think I said that fight as well. I think Gary Rooney was the one who said to me, obviously, you have a good relationship with Gary, and he said he looks at his fights even when he wins, because he says it's like there's always something you're going to find. Yeah. I think fighters are too, oh, I won, let's go on to the next one. So
that's life too. So
yeah, but talk to us about, obviously we'll talk a little bit about politics, but opening the gym, and how does it feel now for you to be a coach? Obviously, I know a lot of your fighters on the scene. Was that an easy transition for you? Because you would have coached in SBG, I would have presumed.
Yes.
So when you knew you were going to get your own gym and you were going to be the head coach, how did that feel to bring through this next generation of fighters? Because you've got quite a few.
I've always been coaching. I coached football. I coached everything down to even as kids. I've done all like my FAI badges. I've done a lot of. People talk about CLA now, the constraints-led approach, basically, which a lot of people go on about in sport and all, like, which is in every other sport with like basketball, football. I've done my rugby badges. I've done teaching kids with disabilities, all this kind of stuff. I was very lucky to be able to do some really, really good qualification courses. I've done leisure management and yeah, I always wanted to be coach. And then within the team, I always wanted to coach as well. I always was second in corner and for hundreds probably of corners, basically, beside John and beside other people as well. And learning, always learning. People say, why do you drive to the north? Why you? Because I want to learn. Like, it's like an apprenticeship, you know, and you're having a chance to learn here how it works, people's emotions, all different ins and outs. And my fighters will tell you as well, there's always a story of like something will pop up. For example, I was supposed to fight one time in Beirut, and the fight was cancelled because a war broke out. And then Jorge was heading out to fight the boy, and I'm like, oh, I've been here before. The fight might be cancelled because the war broke out. And it's like, being able to grab that little bit of experience and give it back to somebody, and then it's a bit crazy, you know what I mean? So as a coach, that's always been my kind of role, is to create an environment that people can grow in. I think that's an important part as a coach, and you can't flog people to train. It's one of the hardest sports in the world. You might train as hard, like harder than everything, and still might not work out for you for circumstances, you know what I mean? But when you do see coming in, and they have that little bit of a like, they have a personality, they have a little bit of a, you know what I mean? And that's great. And then all of a sudden they have a work ethic. That person could probably go anywhere that had certain capabilities, a whole country full of gyms basically, and make it to a very, very high level. Because they have the both of it, you know. Then you get a guy who comes in, and sometimes it's the course being really, really good in this sport now, because nobody wants to fight you then, you know. So, but if you're really, really good and you have a personality, people are like, well, even if I lose, we get a little bump up off them, you know what I mean? So I think there's a lot of that in today's sport, rather than like fighting who's next, you know. There's guys in the island, I don't think that they're fighting each other. Maybe they should fight each other. Now I get it if the two of them are sizzling up at the same time, they're both going on to let them go, let them move out of the country, let them do that. But if the both of them can't find fights in the world, or they're struggling or trying to find just the right fight, you know, I don't know about that, you know. So
yeah, and you talked about it just earlier, that it was just who's next, and obviously I've experienced with matchmaking, and it's from talking to you and others from back then, it was just like you took the fight. You went like Kieran Brady versus Georgie Grosset. What a fight that was to make for your. Do you know that sort of way?
Yeah.
Like they were two of the hottest things going. Do you know the sort of way? And that's why I love dealing with you, because I'm like, there's this person, unless it's like a mismatch. But I'll always look for even yours. Like tell them Like I tried to get Georgie matched against so many people, and it was just no. And I was like, Paddy, I don't think this is going to happen, unfortunately. But one of the things I like to ask us, because obviously you have the technical side, and I know potentially what your answer can be. Do coaches need to have that personal side? Because there's ups and downs and highs and lows that, like, when the fighter's down, that you can throw the arm around the shoulder. Because a lot of coaches are just techniques driven, so they don't have that personal side. You seem to do. Do you think it's essential for a coach to have that, to have the person grow as a fighter and a person?
Well, I think that's what it's all about, basically, is growing people into better people, having an area where, like a third space is what they call it, to grow, no matter what level it is. The most important people in your gym are just the average citizens, they're just the average people that basically come to train. And they're the ones who enable it for everybody. They're the parents of the kids, the people who literally are the life of your gym, you know. And then you have people who will rise out of that, and there's a little small percent of it. And they will be the people who want to go on and they want to fight and they want to have bigger aspirations and stuff like that. And I think you can have that as well. But I think if you put, say, everybody together who's all chasing the goal at the same time, that can be, I reckon there's a bit of a mad energy at times, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because like, you're getting it and I'm getting it, and everyone starts kind of fighting each other, where if you can separate everybody into like their own things and they can train together and they can train with other gyms and spar and everybody builds together and the whole village moves together, I think that's a great way for it, you know what I mean? That's what I try to create. I do feel that a coach has to have obviously the technical ability, the understanding ability of of what's going on. And there's some great coaches out there, you know, there's some really, really good coaches out there, and there's all different kind of approaches. My approach is that, like, I'll hand you over, I'll be here for all of the sessions, I will create the sessions, I'll make them around your fights, I'll break your fighters down, I'll tell the future sometimes in your game plans, and you'll be like, how did you know that? And it's like, just watching this for a long time, looking at their opponent's personality, sometimes you can tell a lot from as well. Will they break when it gets hard? Are they tough? You know, these are all things that have to be there, you know, and you have to be the one saying sometimes the stuff that people don't want to hear. You know, you have to be the one saying, like, this is very important now, you know, like, but you need to not care about it either. Yeah. So it's that thing, because you get too stiff and you're too, oh, well, what if I lose? You have to fight not to lose, you have to fight, like, to win, you know, you can't fight not to lose. It brings a bad energy to us, you know, and then go enjoying it. You see them turn around the corner, the music comes on, they skip out, whoa, the energy gets them, brilliant. You're like, my job's kind of done there now, I just had to go a little bit now.
Yeah, no, like, I see you at nearly every show that I'm at, whether it's novices thing, and you always come out of your way to say hello to me or whatever and shake my hand, and I really appreciate it. Politics, we'll just touch base on the politics. I can see why you got into it, because you're a man people you've talked about in this interview, helping people. Is that why you got in? For us average citizens now, especially, there's a lot going on with the protests as well, and it's hard for the average citizens just to live, the cost of living. Did you get in to try and help people, like just the average, like I said, you and Robbie Keane from the same area, the average people that might not have these opportunities if they get buried under, like, because people are getting quite quickly forgotten about in some of these areas.
If you keep people fighting for resources, they'll just fight each other, and that's what happens. You know, it's been the old divide and conquer for a long time, or divide and rule, and that's what happened. The reason why I get into basically politics was I kind of got, like, about 7-8 years ago, kind of fed up of like, why is this happening? That's ridiculous. And you can see easy ways, and then you're just told that's just the way it is, like, you know. And it was the homeless business that got me basically intrigued in politics, because I realised, if we are not solving this, if we solve this situation tomorrow, homelessness goes away tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be out of jobs. So we're at the creating an industry here. And then there's so many of them. You look at the amount of NGOs in this country, the amount of government funded things. Do we create graduates, or do we create people who are undergraduates and then go into working in an NGO, and then they have to stay, they can't speak their mind. This country has no problem like cancelling you or whatever it is. And to be straight, we are led by the weakest among us when it comes to it. We're led by people who are proven lawyers, who have turned on their heels no matter what has happened. You'll get Micheál Martin talking about like a backwards idea of sovereignty. Then the next sentence he'll be talking about sovereignty in another country and how it's so important. and we are not to listen to this stuff. A lot of the stuff gets hidden, gets under investigations and lessons being learned, and I am learning still in this. But I feel I'm playing a role, and I'm moving forward in, as he said, in another place that maybe I was prepared for this, and I will always be honest. I'll keep my integrity. People go, but you can't fix that. But what I can do is I can have a place where my kids will always look back and go, my dad never rolled over. My dad never, or my granddad, or my great granddad, he never rolled over. That Paddy Holohan with the beard, you know, the Hooligan. You know what I mean? But I know that in public record, when I put stuff on public record, I have put stuff on public record that people would have been like, that's crazy, that's madness. And now then people will kind of look away from me because they don't even want to get into that conversation. I have put stuff on excess deaths. I have said stuff about during COVID with PCR tests, and then you have this new wage thing of like you're far right, you're far left. I had a guy come at me the other day, and it was like, you're not far right, but you're kind of starting to sound a little bit, and you mightn't know it just yet. So I said to him, what is this? Is this asymptomatic far right? You know? In a way, like, and some people are like a dog will piss in their garden and they will call it right. And I don't believe in right and left. I don't believe in all of this stuff. The reason why is because something can happen and this side agrees with it and you agree with them. And then it changes. And then it's on this side. But now you're on this side, so you can't actually disagree with it, because now this side will call you, say you're on this side, and this side will say you're on this side. And it's like, there's no sides. The only side there is common sense and the people working together. And this country deserves it. Ireland has never invaded anybody. We have helped build the world. We need to focus. We need to get 5 to 10 issues, and we need to lock into that. What happens is, we all shift. You have a conversation with somebody and you need to be talking about housing, about, say, immigration, about government corruption and expenditure. Like, what's happening here? The oil off the coast that we just gave away. There's a great thing on Norway. If you look at Norway, basically, Norway went from a fishery to like a very, very rich country, and they don't have the problems that we have, you know. So, and if money could solve housing, all these crises are maintained. This is what I feel. Like the homeless crisis that got me into politics, we go back around to the start of this. If you solve how all of this money has gone into homeless services, but it's just got worse. All of this money has gone into housing and privatising of housing, and it's just got worse. So then you have the hospital crisis. You know what I mean? You have you have all of these, and this goes back into history. If you go back to mother and baby homes and all, you'll see there was switches made there for profit, and it's more profitable to move people there and do this way. And so there's history on it. It's not going to change until ordinary people stand up and take the helm. And I can't do that. Of course you can. You bring €100 to your local council and you run for your area. And well, at least I tried, you can say. But you need to keep your issues right. We're dealing with these issues, and we'll have that conversation. And some people try to have conversations about, like, I don't know, say 5G towers and stuff like that. And I'm not like, right, well, look, that's mental. I'm like, not now. Like, right now, we have no means to change this right now. And if that is the case, and someone presents the evidence, and they're not so crazy, well, like, listen to them then, you know. But now it's like, no, that sounds crazy. We're not listening to you, and if you say anything, we just crazy you off into the corner. And that makes me very suspicious, you know.
Yeah, and I've seen that throughout the years. There's a lot of things you would have said a couple of years ago. Now people are turning around and they're looking at, and this whole left and right thing. What I don't like is this is something that's only popped up in the last 2 or 3 years, and it is a division. Because if you'd have said that to me, I'd sit somewhere in the middle. I agree with some from this side, but I don't even like saying the left and right because, like I said, we're all people. There's right and wrong. That's all there is. Really.
That's a great way of looking at it.
There's right and wrong. Yeah. And like I said, there is the corruption. Leo Varadkar, I'm not going to say it now because if I'm wrong, you get called out on it, but I think he said something about immigration years ago, which completely changed to now. So what people were saying was happening now, and he was saying, no, that's not the case, they're not economic migrants. Whereas if you go back, he was talking about the guys coming over with their blackberries from the UK, saying they were from certain places, and it's mad to see how it flip-flopped. But no, I think you're doing a really good thing. Like, I'll always get behind you, I'll always share your stuff, and I think it's because you're so, people are like, they gravitate towards you because you are a man of the people, and I think that's why you do get the support that you do. But look, I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you 1 or 2 more.
I'll just elaborate on just the way you said there, right? So you are right on the idea of the flipping back and forward, and the immigration situation that has happened in Ireland as well is a huge way to divide and distract as well. But it is a real thing. It's an absolute real thing. And it was created. It's another business like the homeless business. So billions of euro is now being put into centres basically that are exempt under, so the change of use basically. If you change a factory, you get to change the use. But this only lasts till the 31st of December 2028, which is 12 months away from the 2030 election. So all of this planning runs out. So all of these centres basically planning changes and they will have no planning on them. And now we're talking about super centres. I've been asking this question for a long, long time. What are you going to do when the planning runs out? How are you going to just like, liquidate? And where are all them people going to go? What's going to happen here? So they already must have known that, hold on, we'll just exempt all the planning laws and we'll build this big huge super centres. But who's going to run the super centres now? People are going to be appointed them contracts to run them. And they're going to make billions and billions of euro. So if you are saying, like, hold on, I think they're creating a big business here, same with the homeless business, they're like, you're this direction, you're that direction.
Yeah.
That needs to stop. That's just an observation. And if you make an observation and you're wrong, okay, sorry about that, I was wrong.
Yeah.
But we don't do that now. But now we're looking for the perfect people. Like in 1992, I heard that you said this, so you said that, you know what I mean? And then, but in 1992, look at what was going on in our country. We still had like Magdalene laundries. We still had, and the same parties were the ones who were overseeing this happening. Oh, but don't worry about that. Don't let that get in the way, you know? And it's like, I'm sick of that. I'd rather die free and speaking my mind and taking a risk. And maybe sometimes I'm wrong. There's times where I've spoken, maybe I just was naive. Like, sure, I don't mean that. Sure, no one's going to take me up like that. I don't mean that. We're actually going to take you up like that. That's exactly how we're going to take you up. And now I'm a little bit more smarter to understand that, you know. So I know when my kids look back, they'll be like, yeah, Dad had the hat on, you know what I mean? He was my granddad, whoever, great granddad. That's what we need to be looking at now, and that comes from us all.
Exactly. There was, I'm going to just one point on what you said there. Like, I think there's one family that made $250 million off the immigration. I think it's from GE, something not through yeah. And $250 million or something over the past couple of years. Imagine what that would do for everyone.
$250 million of taxpayers' money. Our government spends money like it's their money. They raise the wages. Right, we're going to raise the minimum wage, and I get it. But the businesses take that up. Yeah. But they give themselves a pat on the back. They give 40 million to Ukraine. They give themselves a pat on the back. That's our money, you know. Right now, the fuel crisis going on in there. The men and women are right in what they're standing for. There's like 60% of a litre of every litre is getting taken by the government, and we have surplus. We have bank accounts full of it. And there was a time like this in the country before, and it was called the famine, but it was actually the genocide. They were storing food, they were holding food, but the people were dying, the people were suffering. And now we are here again. We are storing money, holding it for a rainy day. It's raining, yeah? Let's go, you know? The idea of not digging our own oil and all and stuff like this because the Green Party were involved. It goes deep. It could go for days, and I don't want to blabber on here, you know, but I really do think the only way we fix this is if the industries have a huge stake in the seats in Leinster House, and the councils are ran by the people who are in the community who have proven integrity and they run. You mightn't get it right the first time, but there's many different groups I realise when I'm like, these people are like, these are like Batman. They're well organised. You understand what they're talking about, but then sometimes they think when you go into the council, oh, it's all much more complicated. It's not.
It's made more complicated. It's like you said, if you said something wrong, you'd hold your hands up, whereas now certain people or members of the government will try and, I've made a mistake, but I'm going to blame you for this mistake. It's your fault, not our fault. But I know we're under a bit of time pressure, so I'm going to let you go, but I'm going to ask you just one or two questions. What was your biggest moment as a fighter, and what was your favourite fight as a fighter?
Probably UFC Dublin. I like Boston as well. Boston was I had a great performance there as well. I was very lucky not to get to finish there, to be honest, but being in Boston, it all being had to be taken out of Ireland, but still felt like Ireland, and that was a really, really special one, you know what I mean, like that. And even UFC Dublin, the one that didn't go my way, you know, I got to say, okay, put it on my shoulders, I'll go over it and have a go at it, you know what I mean, and I went out and the people still caught me even though I fell, and that was a really amazing feeling, you know, to be like, wow, like, standing here and they're waiting to hear what I'm trying to say, and then I was able to muster up a really, really good kind of like how I was feeling that way, you know. So yeah.
And if someone says, in years to come, when it's all said and done, you're finished coaching, you're sitting there, you're relaxing, and someone says, Paddy Holohan, what is a word or a phrase you would like people to associate with your name and you as a person?
They'll probably say patience. Gotta say patience. I'm trying to get people to be patient in there. Patience, basically, or the idea of like, that's what I'm trying to get people to be able to see it, to be able to be patient in there. But I don't think I'll ever stop coaching. I'll always be here. My sons train jiu-jitsu now, and my neighbours' sons, and I'll always be involved. I love watching people grow from all the way. You know, it's a sensational thing to watch. It's like planting a tree.
Yeah, well, one of the things I always remember is head position. That's all I hear from you when you're in the corner. And when I hear you on the UFC, it says, I'm usually sitting just across the cage from. But look, on terms of politics, I'd probably maybe like to do something with you in a longer version and probably go into that. But for now, this was a bit about you and your life as a person. Thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to say before we shoot off?
Thank you so much. Yeah, going to plant a few flowers in the community now. A few of the great women up that way as well. Yeah, so I'm going to bring the kids and all as well. So yeah, it's a good day. We're blessed. Thank God.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Paddy.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
And have a good day, all right?
Legend.